there's a huge pool of untapped talent in the country. And Germany is a country that's always worried about talent shortage. They have to bring a lot of people from outside. And also diversity is something that's very trendy. And expats solve that problem.
It's the Germany Experience, the podcast about life in Germany as seen through the eyes of outsiders. I'm your host, Sean. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast. It's on all the major platforms, all of them. And if it's not, then it's not a major platform. Visit thegermanyexperience.de as well to access all my episodes, blog posts, and more, and get in touch with me at info@thegermanyexperience.de. This week's guest is Amaia from Spain, who, along with a colleague, Dr. Carlos Morales, is running a research project with the goal of helping expats by understanding their situation better, like their job situation, their current happiness, and so on. Now, the goal is to be able to better help expats in Germany, but also to be able to give data to employers about expats and to help them understand the value of expats and also what to expect and what they're dealing with when it comes to hiring expats. So if you are an expat in Germany and you want to participate, then you can complete their survey. It will take you about 20 minutes to complete. It's completely anonymous, and it will ask you about your living and working conditions here in Germany. Definitely go and do the survey and contribute to this research. You can get to it at expatsmonitor.de or find the link in my show notes. And if you want to learn more about their project, like why they started it and exactly what they're hoping to achieve, then listen to my discussion with Amaia, which is coming up in a few minutes. But first, I got some news. I've started another podcast. Now, I've taken the leap and I'm doing a podcast in German, along with Nina, who, as you probably know, has been a guest on the Germany Experience before. It covers life in Germany, like this one does, as well as some news and funny stories and some quirks about German life. And as I said, it's in German, and I can tell you, my German is terrible. The first episode is out and I've listened back to it, and I'm pretty sure it hurts German ears to hear. But luckily, Nina makes up for any language ability or charm that I lack. So go and take a listen. It's called Die Deutsche und der Ausländer, and it's also linked in the show notes. And subscribe to it. Just go and take a listen. If you like it, subscribe. Now, before we get to the guest this week, I want to read you a 5-star review I got for this podcast on my website, thegermanyexperience.de. If you didn't know that you can review the podcast directly on my website by clicking on Rate Show or by going to thegermanyexperience.de/reviews. And here's one I got from a German named Jonas. Found this podcast by accident and got curious about what immigrants think about my country. Now, Jonas is not the only one. I have a lot of German listeners who are interested in how foreigners see their country. The show is quite entertaining, although somewhat infuriating. After around 60 episodes, it's now 70 episodes, I'm convinced this whole thing is an elaborate scam with the sole purpose of triggering German listeners by sneaking in small mistakes and misconceptions just to trick them into sending angry letters with corrections. Jonas, I wish I was so nefarious. I wish I was that smart. Any mistakes and misconceptions that you hear are real. It's not me being smart about this. They're real. He continues, I found this concept rather original and amusing until the host brought in allegedly German guest, Nina, who I've just started a podcast with, by the way, who had the audacity to claim Köftespieß was the same as kebab. So I guess he's revoking her German citizenship based on that little comment. That's just not funny anymore, he writes. Other than that, the host and the guests seem nice enough. Thanks, Jonas. I guess that's a compliment. We are nice enough. Now, just to get back to this thing about the misconceptions and mistakes, it's going to happen because we're outsiders viewing life from the outside. And even people living in Germany sometimes have a different view of things, or they understand things differently. So there's going to be misconceptions or mistakes or things that might be interpreted in a different way. So I guess it's going to happen. It doesn't happen on purpose, like I said before, but I can see how it could happen. And I could also see how that could infuriate people. I've listened to podcasts before where I'm screaming, like, that's not the case at the host. So hopefully it's not that bad, Jonas. Hopefully you're not screaming in your car or in the U-Bahn or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Jonas continues with my favorite part of this review. I told my expat friends about the podcast and they said, quote, "You know you've really run out of stuff to do when you're listening to podcasts about learning how to live in a country you've already been in for 35 years, and they're not wrong." Jonas, you're welcome to listen to the show, man. It's great to have you on board. And if you do want to correct me on some of my misconceptions or mistakes that I make, feel free to send me an email. It's not me trying to get engagement by cleverly planting these things. I really would like to know if there's something that I'm misunderstanding or that you feel I don't quite grasp, or whatever. Get in touch, info@thegermanyexperience.de, or just leave me a review. I like this review very, very much. It did bring a smile to my face, and it was good to get. And now on to my guest, Amaia. As I mentioned earlier, we discuss her project in our interview. The Expat and Spouses Monitor is what it's called. We also get into how being a foreigner results in something they term the gender expatriation gap, and we cover issues around being an expat spouse. And of course, we get a little bit into Amaia's story, like how she came to be in Germany and why she started this project. So here is Amaia. Okay, Amaia, welcome to the podcast. Now, listeners won't know what we've been through tonight to get this call to happen. Welcome to the show.
It's been a while.
It's taken maybe 50 minutes to get going, but here we are. We're now having the discussion, so it's going ahead. Things are looking good. Thank you very much for your patience and joining the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
So you're here today because we want to talk about a project that you're working on called Expats and Spouses Monitor. And we'll get to your story, who you are, where you're originally from in a bit. But maybe you can start off by introducing us to your project.
Okay, so the project is called, as you said, Expat and Spouses Monitor. And our goal is to generate knowledge and awareness about the situation of expats and expat partners in Germany. I have co-created this with my partner, Carlos Morales, and we basically have created a survey that covers most of the issues that affect expat life.
So you're basically looking for information. You're doing some research, but we're going to get into all of that as to why you're doing that research and what you're hoping to achieve. But what I can say now is that if listeners would like to take part in this in the survey, it's up and running until, I think you told me before, it was until the 20th of February or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 20th of February.
Yeah. So that means as of when this show goes live, you have maybe 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks to go and fill out the survey. And it would be really helpful. And we'll get to why and the details about it all. But Amaia, maybe give me some background about you. Where are you originally from and how did you end up in Germany?
Okay, so I'm from Spain. As a child, I also moved. I lived in Mexico and in the States. But then, like my adulthood, I was in Spain. And with my husband, we always wanted to move abroad. We didn't know where. And then he got this opportunity to move with his company. And we thought that it was a very nice opportunity to take our daughters and have this experience of living away that I liked having as a child.
How old are your daughters?
They are at the moment 7 and 10.
Okay. And has that been a success, moving with children of that age?
Yeah. So when we got there, the youngest was 3. So
right.
She's basically German. Yeah. No. And I think they really liked it and embraced the experience. And I think also that having that experience as a child helped me to manage their feelings and their experiences. So it's been nice.
It's something I hear about often on this podcast from guests who were, as a child, they either moved somewhere or they were continuously moving around, and they seem to want to give that to their children as well, that appreciation for travel, that appreciation for living in a different culture at a young age. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think you learn many skills as a child as well that are very important in your life. So.
Yeah. So tell me about your experience. I think you mentioned, if I remember correctly, what you just said. You said your husband got the job, so you kind of moved with him. And I guess it's a horrible term, but the term trailing spouse is kind of what you were, right?
Yeah, so totally a trailing spouse. So I was happy at the beginning, so I wanted to do that. But after some months, it was kind of too much. I had always been working. I worked as a consultant in marketing, business developer. So I was kind of a career-oriented person. And after some months, I needed to do something. So I realized that there were more people like me that were trying to find their place and what to do, what could they do with their skills in this new country. And with this experience, I co-created the International Women in Business, Düsseldorf.
Okay.
That's a network that helps women to talk about their challenges, find a job, or create a business.
Okay. So this was obviously something dear to you. So how was it what were you going through in those initial years that made you realize just that you have to start something?
Well, it's that you have all of this experience and you know that you can use it in some way, and just taking your kids back and forth to school, it's really nice. You really feel that you are helping them to settle down, but you have to develop your own identity, and that's the struggle.
That is always tricky, and I think that as I've read on, I think either in an article or something on your website where you were saying that there are a lot of spouses who move for their partner who's going there for a career, and usually it's women that are the trailing spouse. If you obviously men can be trailing spouses as well, but it's predominantly women that are trailing spouses, right?
Yeah, so the profile of the trailing spouse is 85% women. That's a study by the Permits Foundation. And the amazing thing is that 92% have higher education. So it's population that's normally worked in their home country, most of them. And then they get to a new country and they don't have any contacts and they find it difficult to start working again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a tricky thing. And you wrote an article on the Expats and Spouses Monitor. The website is expatmonitor.de for people to visit it. But you write an article there about the 3 things that we know about expat spouses. And that's one of the interesting things there in that article was that you end up, if you do go back to work, you end up in a job instead of a career. So maybe you want to talk a bit around that.
Yeah, so that's the main issue. When you don't know anybody and nobody knows your work, it's very hard to keep up with the same level of career that you were in. So you tend to say, okay, I'll take whatever I get. And people are normally underpaid, don't have the same responsibility they had before. And also many expats tend to start a portable career. That's some kind of business they can do online, and they think or they want to take it everywhere they go. But so it not always is aligned with their skills. Yeah, it's just something that they just want to do to stay busy and try to contribute.
Yeah, it is a very tricky situation because you're also dealing with a language gap potentially. So you're limited to searching for jobs in your native tongue. I think I'm speaking from my point of view. I'm English, so it's easier to say, okay, a lot of companies are looking for English. But for people who come from other countries, they're looking for a job probably in English, which is their second language anyway. And most of the positions want German. So that's an added difficulty for finding a job. So that leads to people taking what they can get.
Yeah. For example, my field is marketing. And if you want to, I speak German, but I cannot develop a brochure in German.
Right.
It's not enough. So.
Yeah, same for me. I'm also in marketing. I'm lucky that my marketing job is in English though, because but that is hard to find. It was I had a bit of fortune to find that. My German is also very good, so I can work in German. But exactly like you said, I cannot write blogs in German. I cannot create a brochure. Yeah. My output cannot be in German because it is atrocious. My written German.
Yeah. It's a hard language.
It is a hard language, and. Okay, so that is one of the issues is that that you either don't get a job or you end up with a job instead of a career, and I guess this leads to some kind of identity problems.
Yeah, so that's the other fact. It's identity issues. When you move with your partner, normally people move with their partners. Most of the expats have a partner, and then one goes straight to work. That's maybe new work, new colleagues, but it's kind of the same thing. You go there in the morning and know what to do. But the other one stays at home and has to figure out things, what to buy in supermarket. If you don't know the language, you just stay hours reading, trying to understand every level. They have to manage public transportation. They have to take care of the kids. If they aren't not used to it, they have to take care of their home. Yeah. And clean, and so it creates an identity issue. So you have to change and develop a new identity in a new place.
Yeah, and I think that I think moving to a new country results in identity issues at any rate, because at least for me and people that I've spoken to, you do kind of have to reinvent yourself in the new culture so that you fit in somehow. You can remain authentic and true to yourself, but quite a lot of time you have to discover a new identity. But the problem is that I guess that if you want to call them the trailing spouses, are limited in how they can create that identity if they cannot just go out and get a job or do what their career is or what they studied, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have to develop a complete new identity. Yeah, because it's not what they had before.
Yeah, and what is the effect on what is the result of that kind of identity crisis? Do you think? Does it lead to things like depression, or what do you think the dangers of that are?
Well, I have seen, so I've worked with a lot of expats, so I've seen almost everything. So some people just say, okay, I have to do something with this, and I'm going to find a job or create my portable career, do whatever, but I'm going to do something. Right. And there are some people that are depressed, and it's also kind of a hard issue because you feel kind of guilty of being depressed, because you don't have to work. So it's just a dream that everybody has. Okay, you don't have to work and live abroad, but then you're depressed and you feel guilty for being depressed. So
wow, yeah, that is a difficult. Plus, I guess you feel guilty for being depressed because you have a privileged situation of going to another country, and it's not a situation that everyone gets. So plus, not having to work, people think you just go out every day and explore the culture and go to museums and whatnot, but that's not the case. It's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, that can be fun for a while, but then some people just after a while, or if they have kids and then they move away from the house, then they feel they have nothing to do. So yeah, it's challenging.
I often jokingly refer to myself as a trailing spouse because we came here with my wife's job. But I was fairly confident that I could get a job in the field that I wanted to, and it was everything. But in that first few months, and obviously it's a different situation for me, but just my personal experience with that is in the first few months, let's say 2 months or so, I loved it because I was in a new place. I didn't have a job. I was just looking for a job, and it was a very frustrating thing. But at that point, it was something that's happening on the side, and I'm going to find something. But I could go down to the city, the Innenstadt, the city center, and go and just explore the new stores and go to neighboring cities. But then after 3 months, I started going, like, you want to contribute. I had this feeling like I want to give something to society because I have something to offer, but yet I can't because I'm not getting this job. And it became more and more frustrating. And it was just very fortunate that I was able to get a job after about, I think it was 5 or 6 months after arriving, I got offered the job. So for me, it wasn't that long, but already I could see how someone's mindset might be if they were in that position for a long period of time. So it was quite eye-opening.
Yeah. And also many people have like a temporal contract, move there for 1-2 years.
Yeah.
So it's also harder to find a job, because if your employee finds out that you're going to move, it's not probably that they will hire you.
Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. And the other point that you put in that article that we were referencing earlier, what we know about expat spouses, is that there is insufficient organizational support for these expat spouses.
Yeah, that's the other issue. So some companies offer kind of some training or like one time with a coach, but it's not enough. The studies show that if you give proper support, people are happier and it's easier for them to find a job. But most companies don't give any support.
Yeah, because I guess why should they in a lot of cases? That they've got to, but we'll also get more to the what companies can learn from the stuff that you're doing in a bit. So that was all very interesting reading about that. But you also wrote another article that was quite interesting to me, was something called the gender expatriation gap. And this was something, to be honest, it's not something I concretely thought about or realized, but obviously this kind of, there's already a gender gap in general in many societies where men are paid more than women or have more opportunities. But when you're an expat as a woman, I guess it's compounded, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a term that we have created. It doesn't exist, and it's what you said. It's compounded. So it's the gender pay gap. So women tend to be underpaid. Is the gender employment gap. There are normally more men than women in the workforce. And then when you move abroad, everything comes together. Yeah. So what we said before, if you find a job, it will be underpaid, most likely, and you're less likely to find a job. So everything comes together.
Yeah. And something that you said to me when we were talking before this interview is that it could result in someone living in a sort of a 60s kind of situation where they've regressed a few decades of all the progress that we've made in gender equality and things like that. Suddenly being an expat as a woman pushes you back 4 decades or something like that.
Yeah, it's like you have to take care of your children, the household, and everything at home, and just have dinner ready for when your husband comes home. So
it's like the old days. Yeah, and it's a dangerous trap to fall into, because it's also a bit of a cycle, and then it gets harder and harder to get out of that, I should imagine.
Yeah, that wasn't my case. So my husband didn't travel a lot and things, so he was home early enough. But I know some women that were just the entire week by themselves with the children and had to do. It was kind of frustrating because it wasn't like that when they were in their home in their home country.
Yeah, and even if it was, let's say that they didn't have a career in some cases, but they would still have those social connections at home that they don't have, that they're not making because their husband is maybe the one making the social contacts, but they're not getting the connections just in this routine at home. Yeah, very, very interesting. But also what was interesting to me is that it's also a problem for male trailing spouses, right? Maybe you can talk about some of the issues that might be around that.
Yeah. So as I say, it's not only female, it's also male. They are less, so they are underrepresented. They find it more difficult to have a social circle. Like if you're female, you can choose for many options. You can go to the museum with somebody, have coffee with the other ones, or maybe try to start a business with another group. So you have different options. But if you're a male, there's not many males. Some of them tend to go with the group of women, like they meet after taking the kids to school.
Right.
And also in some some nationalities, it's not well seen. So their friends back home say, "Oh, what are you doing that you moved there and you're not working, and your spouse is the one that's working?" So it's hard for them as well.
Yeah, that social aspect can be a bit tricky. But what do you think? How do you think Germany views that? Because I have a feeling, but maybe it is not scientific. It's just a gut feel from my empirical experiences that Germans are more open to a male being at home. I don't know. Am I correct in that, or maybe I'm completely incorrect?
Well, I think it's changing. But okay,
I'm wrong.
I mean, I used to work for a German company, and one of my colleagues told me that if she had a kid, she was expected to be the one that stayed at home.
Okay, so that is still even in Germany kind of a societal norm, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I often think of Germany as being very progressive in a lot of ways, but I guess that in some ways it might be the case that it's not always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in countries like Sweden or Norway, they were really advanced at that.
Mm-hmm. So all of this, all of your experiences, all that you've learned about that, and your own situation when you arrived, that was maybe not the same as everyone's, but all of this has led you to this project that you're doing now, the expat spouses monitor. So, what? Tell me what that's all about. What you're actually doing there.
Okay, so we're gathering data because in every business, when you want to make change or you want to launch a new product, whatever, you need reliable data. Mm-hmm. And that's the basis with what you can take decisions and design a project that you are going to do, whatever. So we both, my partner and I, realized that there wasn't enough data. We were needing some data for our work with expats. And we thought that having this data will help implement solutions for this problem.
Okay, so you're just basically gathering the data about expats. What kind of information are you looking at from? I haven't done the survey yet, by the way. I'm going to do the survey. But what kind of information is the survey requesting, or what are you looking to get?
Okay, so it's demographics. Then it's how happy they are with their work situation. If they're working, not working, and what's their desired situation. Also, if they're happy with the city they are living in and with Germany. The entire adaptation and integration, how well integrated they are, where their friends are from. This thing that gives you a sense of if people are happy and integrated in Germany or just living with their people from their home country.
Yeah.
So we basically want to do a profile of the expat spouses.
All right. So that you understand a bit better about their situations and their feelings, because it could be that they're quite happy being at home and not working, but that's definitely, well, we obviously know that's not the case, but you want to be able to quantify it and say, that it's not the case.
Yeah, you need data, like people that are working, if they're happy, not happy, if they want to stay in Germany or leave.
Right.
We believe that people like dual career couples that both of them are working are more likely to stay in Germany. Mm-hmm. But that's something that you have to prove. So the data will help prove all of these things. Yeah, and we also want to make make companies and organizations aware that there's a huge pool of untapped talent in the country. And Germany is a country that's always worried about talent shortage. They have to bring a lot of people from outside. Yeah. And also diversity is something that's very trendy. And expats solve that problem. They are high qualified and they are in the country. And the only thing that Germany needs to do is try to give them and the companies try to give them a hand,
right,
and create this bridge.
Yeah, and what's interesting, like you said, they're quite often expats are they've studied something, they have a degree in something, or they are very experienced in something. But not only that, being an expat or moving to another country in itself develops some skills, right? That might be useful to an employer.
Yeah, so there's what's called soft skills. It's something that more and more companies are demanding. It's not only a qualification, it's also resilience, the ability to adapt to new things, the ability to deal with uncertainty. Like, for example, now with COVID, expats are, they know how to deal with uncertainty. So you're kind of more prepared and ready to take whatever comes.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. Like, you learn a lot of resiliency as an expat, and a lot of okay, it didn't work out now. We have to try it a different way, or I have to get this job somehow. How do I get in there and stuff? So you do develop a certain set of skills. And anyone from another country who can deal with German supermarkets deserve a position somewhere because you've learned amazing skills.
Yeah, and also cultural intelligence. I mean, you know how to understand people and put yourself in other shoes, and you also learn that there's no right or wrong. There's always something in the middle, because every country does things different, and it doesn't mean that that's the wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's about a way of showing employers that this is actually a good thing, that you've got these expats with these additional soft skills that might actually be useful in the organization. And something else that you mentioned to me when we were preparing for this call was that it's not easy to reflect this on a CV, these skills.
Yeah, it's not easy at all, because you cannot measure them. There's not, I mean, if you have a degree, you have some paper that will show that you have the degree. But if you're resilient, who knows how resilient you are?
Yeah, how can you prove it as well?
Yeah, it's hard to get that on a CV. Yeah, and also expats tend to have a gap. Like if you, like you said, when you moved, you were like 6 or 7 months without finding a job. So that's a gap in your CV that maybe can be 1 year or 2 years.
Yeah,
and then you have less chances of people calling you.
Yeah. So it's also helping, you want to help employers understand not only about the skills that you could match up to your skills shortage, but also that there's the CV might look negative at first, but it actually might be telling you something else that you don't know about. So I think it'll be good. It's amazing that you're going to be trying to get this data in the hands of people making those kinds of decisions. I think it's a great thing. But also what's great is that this could help expats themselves, right? Because just listening to you talk about this, I would be thinking, if I was going for a job interview, how do I bring that stuff into the interview? And that's maybe something that we don't think about when we go for a job interview in German companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's difficult also because sometimes like German companies ask for referrals in a way that you maybe don't have referrals. And so it's hard to get everything into the recruiter.
Yeah.
And especially if you do it through an automated system, it's very hard that it gets through.
Yeah.
So I recommend everybody to try to look somebody up in LinkedIn or whatever and try to contact them, because otherwise it's quite difficult.
Otherwise it's difficult. Yeah, it's very tricky. So once you get all of the data that you're looking for from this survey, what is the next step for you?
So our goal is to create awareness. So in order to create that awareness, we're going to publish the results that we have in different types of reports, addressing different organizations or companies, different type of people. And we're going to talk about it, create discussions, try to organize webinars. That's our goal, to try to make awareness about this and generate some ideas to make this change.
Wow, it's a great goal, and I think I definitely suggest that listeners go and take part in the survey. Like I said, I haven't done it yet, but I will be doing it within the next day or so. So I'll be doing it anonymously, but if one pops up next day, you know it's me. Okay. So, but I know it's still running now. But have you learned anything? Have you looked at any of the data that's come in? Is there anything that's stuck out to you?
Well, it's hard to say. It's better to look at all the results at the end.
Sure.
But if I have to say something, it's that the survey takes like 15, 20 minutes to complete. So it's quite long. And at the end, we have like an open question, like in general, what's your opinion about your time in Germany? And some people write paragraphs, like 1-2 paragraphs describing their opinion and their experience. So we're really grateful for that, because we think that there's this need of people to share their experience, and they find a place to do it in the survey. So we're very happy about that.
Yeah, I can definitely say something to that. Foreigners definitely want to share their stories. When I started this podcast, which is essentially foreigners' stories, I thought there is no way there's gonna be enough people to talk to. Maybe I'll do this for 6 months and then that's it. But this is now going to be episode, I think 71 that you're coming out in. 71 episodes, and I still have a list of people that I need to get to who want to come on and tell their stories and explain their experiences. And so that's something that's amazed me, is that I can confirm what you're telling me there, is that people do have that need to tell their story, or do want to tell a story somehow, and also hear them. They want to hear them because it's something that they can relate to and latch onto and connect to and say, okay, I'm not alone in this. So I think that's why projects like the one that you're doing is also important, is just to give the people the feeling they're not alone, or they're not the only ones experiencing these things that they're experiencing.
Yeah, and when you see it as something that's normal and that happens to other, then it's not that easy that you get depressed. It's more likely that you find the strength to say, okay, it's not only me, it's not something personal. Yeah. So let's go and let's do something.
Yeah. So it was very interesting to talk to you. It was great to hear a bit about your story. And once again, thank you for sitting through all the technical problems getting this interview sorted out.
Yeah, I think this year we all know about technical problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll put the website expatsmonitor.de in the show notes. I'll link directly to the survey so that people can go in there and fill it out. Amaia, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was very nice talking to you, Sean.
All right, go and do the survey. As I said, the link is in my show notes. Take part in the survey and help them generate some more data about the expat experience in Germany. That's all for this week. Next week, I've got a very interesting discussion with someone who's going to give us advice about the job application process in Germany. He works on the other side of the table. He's able to give some ideas about what German recruiters, HR people, and so on are looking for, and just some advice and tips around applying for a job and going through the whole interview process. That's coming up next week. Music in this episode by my band 10 Cent Janes. Additional music by Ryan Anderson until the end. Stay healthy, stay warm. I'll speak to you next week. Auf Wiederhören.